Every workplace has employees who raise their hands. They take meeting notes when no one volunteers. They organize the team lunch. They help onboard the new hire, even though it is not in their job description. They stay late to fix something that broke because someone needs to do it. The organization notices. Managers remember. Colleagues appreciate it. What actually happens is this. You have taught the institution that you will absorb work without requiring compensation, title changes, or formal recognition. You have created a second job that exists only because you perform it. The organization builds your willingness into its operating assumptions. When budget cuts come, your department runs lean because you make lean possible. The extra projects are not opportunities. They are a voluntary tax you pay that the institution learns to collect automatically. Number 1, the capacity signal. When you volunteer for additional work, you communicate that your current workload leaves room for more. Managers operate on revealed preference, not stated claims. You can say you are overwhelmed in your one-on-one, but if you continue taking on projects outside your core responsibilities, the workload signal overrides the verbal complaint. An employee tells her manager she is at capacity, but then organizes the department off-site because no one else will. Her manager now has conflicting data. The volunteer work is observable, documented in emails and Slack threads and meeting notes. The statement about being overwhelmed is a conversation that happened once. 6 months later, during headcount discussions, her manager knows she can absorb additional responsibilities because she already demonstrated it. The organization does not measure your capacity by what you say. It measures by what you repeatedly do without breaking. Once you establish that you can carry extra weight, the extra weight becomes baseline expectation. Reducing your volunteering later reads as reduced commitment, not as returning to your actual job. Number 2, the gratitude economy. Extra work generates appreciation, not advancement. Colleagues thank you. Your manager expresses gratitude. You receive visibility for being helpful. What you do not receive is compensation, promotion priority, or formal recognition that changes your institutional standing. Gratitude is the currency organizations use when they cannot or will not provide actual resources. An employee spends 3 months leading a cross-functional initiative that is not part of his role. He receives public thanks in the all-hands meeting. When promotion season arrives, the feedback is that he needs more strategic impact in his core function. The cross-functional project demonstrated his capabilities, but did not count toward advancement because it was not in his formal objectives. It existed outside the evaluation structure. The gratitude was real. The career benefit was zero. Organizations sustain themselves on employees who accept appreciation as compensation. The moment you accept thanks as sufficient payment for work, you have established that thanks are what that work is worth. Gratitude costs nothing. The institution will provide it in unlimited quantities for as long as you accept it as adequate return. Number 3. The availability trap. Reliability becomes obligation. You help once, and the organization learns to depend on that help. You become the person who handles a particular kind of problem because you handled it before. An employee volunteers to manage the internship program one summer. The following year, there is an assumption she will do it again. When she tries to decline, there is confusion. The program needs an owner. She knows how it works. Who else would do it? The question is not asked as pressure. It is asked as genuine confusion about why someone would stop doing something they are clearly capable of doing. She is now in a position where declining feels like letting people down. The path from volunteering once to indefinite assignment is seamless. The institution does not need to ask anymore. It simply expects. When you volunteer to solve a problem, you often become the permanent solution to that problem. The organization has no incentive to formalize the role or distribute the responsibility because you continue to handle it. Your reliability is efficient. The institution preserves that efficiency by keeping the work informal, uncompensated, and entirely dependent on your continued willingness to perform it. Number 4, the visibility illusion. Extra projects create exposure, not leverage. You become known for being helpful, collaborative, and willing to pitch in. These are qualities organizations value in the abstract. They are not qualities organizations promote. An employee takes on high visibility projects outside her department. She gets invited to more meetings. Senior leaders learn her name. She assumes this visibility will translate to opportunity. What actually happens is that she becomes known as someone who supports important work, not someone who owns it. When a leadership role opens, The person who gets it is the one who spent the same time period deepening their expertise in their core function and producing measurable outcomes in their formal area of responsibility. The visibility she gained was real. The strategic value of that visibility was not what she assumed. Organizations need people who volunteer. They promote people who deliver results in the areas the organization measures and compensates. These are often different people. Visibility without formal authority or measurable ownership is a form of exposure that generates recognition but not power. You become well known for being useful to others. That is a reputation that keeps you exactly where you are. Number 5. The scope expansion. Projects grow. What starts as a small, bounded task becomes something larger and more complex once you are responsible for it. An employee volunteers to update the team wiki. The project expands to include reorganizing all documentation, establishing new templates, and training others on the system. None of this was part of the original scope. It happened because once someone owns something, that something expands to fill the available attention. The employee cannot do a partial job without it reflecting poorly on him, so he does the complete job. The organization benefits from the expanded scope. It does not compensate for the expanded scope because the expansion happened informally. There was no new project proposal, no additional resources allocated, no timeline adjustment. The work simply grew, and the person doing it absorbed the growth. This is how organizations get large projects completed without funding them. Someone volunteers for a small piece, the piece expands into the whole, and the volunteer either completes it or is perceived as failing to deliver. Once you take ownership, organizational pressure to complete the work transfers to you. The institution does not need to manage the project. You manage it. The cost of the expanded scope is yours alone. Number 6. The equity extraction. Extra projects are distributed unevenly. Certain employees receive requests to volunteer more frequently than others. These are typically employees who have already demonstrated willingness, who are perceived as communal, or who occupy positions with less structural protection. Women are asked to take notes, organize events, and manage interpersonal dynamics at higher rates than men. Junior employees are asked to volunteer more than senior ones. People without clearly defined boundaries receive more requests because making the request is more likely to succeed. An employee realizes she is asked to handle logistics for team events, coordinate schedules, and document meetings significantly more than her peers at the same level. When she declines, there is surprise. Her manager suggests it would be good for relationship building. Her male colleague is never asked to do these things. His time is assumed to be occupied with strategic work. Hers is assumed to be available. The pattern is not random. It is targeted. Organizations extract voluntary labor from the people least positioned to refuse it. Once you establish yourself as someone who will do this work, the requests increase. The only way to stop receiving them is to stop accepting them, which requires tolerating the discomfort of declining and the perception shift that follows. Number 7, protected time. The conclusion is mechanical, not moral. Volunteering for extra projects teaches the institution to expect unpaid labor from you. It creates obligations without corresponding authority. It generates visibility without leverage. The work expands, the requests increase, and the compensation remains unchanged. What changes when you stop is this. You reclaim the time the organization was using without paying for it. You redirect that capacity toward work the institution actually measures and rewards. An employee stops volunteering for cross-functional projects and focuses exclusively on her core objectives. Her performance reviews improve because she is now delivering exceptional work in the areas her role is evaluated on. The projects she used to volunteer for either get assigned to someone else with proper resources, or they do not happen. Either outcome reveals the truth about the work. If it was important, the organization funds it. If it was not, it dies. Your job is the work you are hired and compensated to do. Everything else is a choice. The institution will accept as much voluntary labor as you provide. It is designed to. Protecting your time is not selfishness. It is accuracy about what your role actually is and what the organization actually owes you for performing it.